A total 20 NBA franchises have won a championship, but some seeking for title number 1 still ringless years after being beaten in heartbreaking fashion, the nail-biters in close games down to the final possession. Just like any other sport, the NBA also a game of inches. Whether it's Kevin Durant's foot being a size too big, the shot seen in real time, many thought Brooklyn was gonna win it all, the team's best chance at winning it all. Now, the franchise might have to suffer for years, haunted by that one very moment. Another epic contender who could have ended the process forever before anyone imagined, Embiid and Simmons' best chance at a title, only to go through not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 excruciating bounces, knocked off Philly's chances at a ring. How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson. After the Denver Nuggets finally won its first ring in franchise history, the greatest chance at a ring before that came 14 years ago when the great Kobe Bryant drained a cold-blooded bomb with just over a minute left. As it seemed the Nuggets were getting momentum, Kobe silenced the 19,000 plus attendance at the Pepsi Center. LA took a commanding 2-1 series lead, one of Kobe's most underrated daggers. 14 years later, iconic how the Nuggets needed to get past the Lakers en route to his first title. Now, 10 franchises still haunted by that one shot, longtime fans still having sleepless nights. Some of the most devastating instances the NBA will ever see even resulted in all-time greats forever going ringless. That one shot, had it been a split second earlier, had players rotated faster, NBA legacies would have been completely different. Starting with the Atlanta Hawks, the franchise's first and only title came from St. Louis back in 1958. Despite a recent conference finals run led by third-year Trae Young, the franchise never came close to truly winning it all since the Bob Pettit days. But in 1988, prime Dominique Wilkins' best chance to elevate his legacy, 28 years old, against 32-year-old Larry Bird, upsetted Boston Game 5, went up 3-2, a chance to close out the series at home. The C's dynasty appeared to be in the ending stages. Wilkins balled out, proved his abilities, outscoring Larry legend 34-20, end of 3. The two took over down the stretch, blow by blow. Bird put up 20 the final period, Wilkins 14. Larry's midi jumper, when doubled, all net. After Boston got a little momentum, Bird's left corner bomb, contested heavily, put Boston up 7. More like a multitude of Bird shots ruined Dominique's dreams of ever leading his team to the conference finals. Larry Legend's famous quote, guaranteeing a win in Game 7 after Atlanta blew their chances. Game 6 finally nailed the dagger in the coffin, posting up on Wilkins, gets away, an easy look at the rim, followed by the legendary call from Brett Musburger.
Gets it into Bird, and Wilkins is there. Bird comes free. You are watching what greatness is all about.
Put Boston up 114-109, 26 ticks left. That series and moment, the highlight of Dominique Wilkins' career, the farewell of Bird's last healthy season. To many fans, the best game they ever witnessed. Wilkins simply overshadowed by all the all-time greats in his era. One of the most electrifying players, missed the top 50 in 97 but made top 75. Detroit Pistons, 2005, 18 years ago, but the team hasn't won a single playoff game 15 years and counting. Robert Horry's Game 5 dagger will forever haunt Detroit's chances at pulling off one of the most impressive repeats. Everybody retired for years now, only Ben Wallace on that Pistons team in the Hall of Fame. No player made the least of their talents than Rasheed Wallace, who had all the physical abilities becoming an all-time great, but ended up in a couple devastating Game 7 losses down to the wire. Inexplicably, went to double-team Manu Ginobili when Big Shot Rob already had 18, 4, and 5. As soon as Horry left open, Detroit fans' hearts sank before he even made that shot. One of the biggest brain farts any player can make, leaving a generational clutch player with that much space. Many nil Spurs had that series wrapped. Since Game 6 and 7 went back to San Antonio, Detroit, to their credit, won Game 6, couldn't maintain its lead Game 7. If the mid-2000 Pistons beaten the Lakers and Spurs in back-to-back final series, would have gotten massive respect. The team hasn't gone back to the finals since. Who knows when they'll actually be good again. The Houston Rockets, 1997, the closest to a possible Hakeem vs. Jordan matchup. Ruined by the greatness of John Stockton's dagger, 2 years removed from a title, superstar Hakeem aging, 33-year-old Barkley took his talents to H-Town, gave up good role players Sam Cassell and Robert Horry, team looked like absolute contenders at first, started the season 21-2, 41-12 when Chuck suited up, only 16-13 without Barkley, 57 wins after Seattle being Hakeem's kryptonite, adding Chuck paid dividend. Knocked off the defending Western Conference champs in 7, only to face the hungry Malone and Stockton's Jazz, a team Hakeem beat both his title years, but a huge disadvantage with the older Barkley's lack of movement, closing out the pick and roll. A younger Horry would have done better, slowing down Stockton and Malone's offense. Game 6, down to the wire, Dream being the more efficient player, took less shots than Chuck. Houston even a 10-point lead, less than 3 minutes left. Whether they beat Utah on the road in Game 7, likely not, but Oscar Tagg's amazing defense on Hakeem plus the relentless Stockton kept the Jazz in it. Drexler went a little too early, gave Utah 2.8 seconds, just enough time for Stockton's bomb. No more real title hopes for the Dream. Barkley never got his revenge versus Jordan. The franchise endured plenty of playoff disappointments the following decades, the injury shortcoming of T-Mac and Yao, the 2018 CP3 injury, the 27 straight missed threes, just not enough to beat Golden State. It'll take a while for Houston to becoming a contender again. Just go ask Dillon Brooks. Indiana Pacers wasn't a single shot by their opponents before 2004. There was Kobe's Game 4 takeover down the stretch 2000. His last bucket, a putback off a miss, helped LA go up 3-1. Had it been 2-2, Lakers still the favorites to win it all with prime Shaq. But Reggie Miller got the golden opportunity, the most defensive series all time, every basket near impossible. You never knew when the last bucket of the game's gonna come. Up 1-0, Detroit 69-67 lead after tenacious defense, shutting down Detroit. 38-year-old Reggie, a breakaway, guaranteed to tie the game, point blank layup, but out of nowhere, Tayshaun Prince swats it away. The game-winning save, the most important possession for the 04 Pistons. Had that game went to overtime, Indy wins, goes up 2-0. We could have been seeing a Lakers-Pacers finals for the second time. A possession that still haunts the franchise almost 20 years later. The 04 Pacers team, much better than 2013 and 14. Tayshaun's block shot capped off the Pistons' all-time defense. Detroit 26 blocks to end the game. Prince of all people put on the finishing touches. Game 6 dagger capped off a 69-65 win to the finals. Although Indy's been hurt by LeBron's greatness both 2013 and 14, James's Game 1 winning layup opened as a result for Roy Hibbert sitting out the final possession. But realistically, Indiana wasn't going to beat Miami then. The New York Knicks, the franchise finally some optimism after many years of struggle, but still hasn't come close to competing for a legitimate title since the 90s, a multitude of missed opportunities, both 93, 94, and 95, but absolutely the John Starks go-ahead 3, Game 6 of the finals, trying to capture the title, the greatest example of one missed shot changing absolutely everything for career franchises, having the game of his life, 27 big points, 5 threes before the final possession. Starks would have had his jersey number retired at Madison Square Garden, taking the most difficult shot over arguably the greatest defensive big man all time just by Hakeem's fingertips, enough to make an impact. The way Starks was shooting that ball Game 6 likely denied a championship by the slightest of touches. Had Dream been a half-second slower, history would have easily been different. The players that ended up hurting most, Patrick Ewing retired ringless, while 1993, a good mention of Charles Smith, New York riding a 27-game home win streak, went up 2-0 versus the Bulls, Michael Jordan accused of gambling in Atlantic City all night. The overwhelming distractions might have gotten to Chicago a bit. New York having all the momentum, the Starks baseline jam after the two-time defending champs tied the series, back to the Garden, Knicks down 1, Smith stopped not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. Maybe the only guy to ever get rejected 4 different scenarios in a 3-second span. One of the greatest defensive stands in NBA history, a possession that could have prevented the Bulls from three-peating, from Starks near travel to Ewing crashing down, too many what-ifs, whether Smith could have elevated to dunk it, a name longtime Knicks fans don't want to think about, from Horace Grant to Jordan to 2 Scottie Pippen blocks. Possessions like these are why the Bulls 6-time NBA champs, known for being New York's kryptonite. Also Ewing's Game 7 blown layup in the 95 semis versus the Pacers, a huge stain to his legacy, would have faced the young Shaq. but New York never the same since. The Orlando Magic. Nick Anderson's missed free throws 4 straight in regulation, allowing Kenny Smith to tie it up. The biggest choke job of them all, a 70% foul shooter afterwards fell to 60%, ruined his confidence forever. A super talented, very young squad, early 20-point lead at home game 1, only to give it all back. Never recovered, up 1 in OT. Hakeem's putback with 0.3 of a second remaining demoralized the entire Magic team. Killed the young squad's attitude overnight. Sure, Houston probably still wins the series. If Orlando went up 1-0, nobody was stopping Hakeem that year, but for the Magic to get swept afterwards, Shaq taking his talent to LA 13 months later, from potential dynasty to rock bottom, franchise only made it back to the finals once, which leads us to Courtney Lee's chance winning game 2 to tie the series. A tough catch and finish. Orlando could have evened up the series, going home 3 straight games. LA would have still been the heavy favorites with a hungry Kobe. Phoenix Suns. Before the 2021 finals loss, the franchise plenty of devastating losses, still ringless. The name John Paxson still sickens the fan base to this day. Phoenix showed plenty of heart, needed triple overtime to avoid going down 0-3, took 2 games in Chicago. Had the Suns won the series, many would have been calling Barkley a top 15 all-time. Chicago running on fumes, all 9 fourth quarter points scored by MJ. Everybody else fearful of Jordan. Whole team shocked he got rid of the ball quickly, allowing for an open Paxson dagger. The Suns never the same since. Kevin Johnson got his shot blocked the final seconds. Lost to Hakeem back-to-back seasons after. 93, the franchise's ultimate shot. Even the Steve Nash days, Robert Horry's hip check game 4 led to Almari's suspension, changed the outcome of the series, a matchup that decided the real NBA champs in the semis. 2010 conference finals, game 5, only for Ron Artest to overpower Jason Richardson on the glass, the winning layup. 2021 Giannis game 5 alley-oop and 1, left the whole arena speechless. But at least the Suns, title favorites come 2024, too much to be determined. The Portland Trailblazers. We have officially entered post-Dame Lillard era. The franchise won't be contending for a couple years. Back in 2000, one of the most stacked rosters, Damon Stoudemire, Steve Smith, Scottie Pippen, Rasheed Wallace, Sabonis, Brian Grant, Greg Anthony, Bonzi Wells, not to forget about a young Jermaine O'Neal, Old Deathless Shrimp, 59 wins, had the size to draw at Shaq, blew a 16-point lead, no reliable go-to option hurt them down the stretch. Pippen disappointed. A franchise filled with what-ifs, a combination of former greats to eventual stars, contained Shaq to 9 points first 3 quarters. Portland missed 12 straight shots at one point, LA up 4. The iconic Kobe and Shaq alley-oop put the nail in the coffin. The Blazers franchise never recovered from that scenario, led to the start of the dynasty for the greatest duo ever assembled to a team never fully recovering from epic choking proportions. Took that franchise 14 years later to make round 2. The 2002 Sacramento Kings. The franchise way ahead of their time, unstoppable offense, all 5 starters could pass, the combination of Weber and Divot's unstoppable, sharpshooter Peja Stojakovic, all defensive team Doug Christie, the underappreciated Mike Bibby, 61 wins, loaded Western Conference, best all-around team that year, the ultimate team ball in the heavy offensive ISO era, easily winning first 2 rounds, no sweat beating Nash and Dirk's Mavs, most controversial series all time, up 2-1, heading into game 4, destroying the Lakers. LA seemed to have no answers for Sacramento's heavy power offense. Laker fans booed the home team. Kings jumped out to a 40-20 lead end of 1, but LA slowly came back. A Samaki Walker 3 to end the half before instant replay occurred gave the Lakers enough hope for the final possession down 2. A Kobe miss, Shaq no luck, but Vlade Divac suddenly tipped the ball, hoping for time to run out. Of all people, Robert Horry gets a good look, drinks the dagger. There's a reason why he's called Big Shot Rob. Erased the 24-point deficit before the famous Game 6 happened. The Kings collapsed late Game 7. The franchise was built to win multiple titles, but ended with 0. Fans endured a 16-year playoff drought, the 0-2 nightmares still fresh in many's minds. The Utah Jazz. Of course, Michael Jordan 1998, the last dance, the last shot he ever took as a member of the Chicago Bulls, the perfect way to cap off his greatness. Winning title number 6 unquestionably made him the greatest player all time without any legit comparisons. Pippen a damaged back, Rodman a foot out the door against a hungry Malone and Stockton's team, both in their mid-30s, lost in a close 6 the season before. 98 being Utah's last hopes before Father Time kicked in, already a couple missed calls game 6, Ron Harper's runner counted, when replays show ball still in his hands, a Howard Isley 3 waved off, still clearly in his hands, 2 devastating ref mistakes that made Utah fans livid to this very day. After a Stockton bomb, MJ scored easily, Utah needed to execute but couldn't even get a shot off. Jordan stripping Malone from the weak side set up the perfect ending to the greatest player the game has ever seen. The crossover, all net. Ball couldn't have gone in any more perfectly. An 87-86 win. MJ scored more than half his team's points, left both Stockton and Malone ringless forever. Any highlight reels of MJ for the ones who's watched the game after his time, there's absolutely no way to describe the craziness in real time. Living in 1998, to this day, the franchise still hasn't had a real shot at a title. Fans still dreaming about the Malone-Stockton days. 25 years later, MJ's last dance, still arguably the most iconic moment in NBA history. The Utah Jazz, just the victim standing in the way of the GOAT. Which franchise still haunted most by one shot? The Utah Jazz in 98? Is it the New York Knicks or Phoenix Suns? Let me know in the comments below. See you next time.